non-binary transmasculine person. And I also identify as like bisexual or queer. I like the word queer because like it's just kind of like ambiguous, just kind of like the label for like no labels.
I identify as a male and I am a homosexual / gay.
I guess male, orientation, bisexual.
I identify as a non-binary, bisexual.
I'm
This
asexual.
film has great pacing. The visuals are very creative. The subjects are engaging and not the least bit preachy. And it ends on a positive note. What more could I ask for in a documentary of this nature?
This one was very honest. I liked how they managed to touch on different points, topics that are crucial in this conversation, like the misrepresentation of queer characters in media or film or politics or anything related to social life and public life, not only misrepresenting but underrepresenting. So how that shapes a lot of character for different people that feel confused and not accepted. I also wanted to point out the brushes, the paint strokes. For me was a very nice touch. I really liked that effect, and it was a great film.
I found this documentary very interesting. It allowed me to know and understand aspects of sexuality, of identifying one's gender that are absolutely really not obvious. This allows you to not roughly divide people with the circumstance labels, which is basically wrong, but yeah, it is wrong. The world changes and so does the identity of individuals, and it is important to find the right and the respectful way to address each of them. And I appreciate the mix of testimonials that are brought into the movie, and together with the interaction between the video image and the paint colors that seem to be spread on it. So I think it's really well done. It's informative, it is interesting, and it's visually well done.
I like the insight that I was given with this film. It was more delving into each person's personal experience, which I know is very different from person to person.
Amazing. The first thing I noticed was the amount of bisexual representation in it. That should have told me right then and there that this was going to be dope, and it was going to be pretty atypical in terms of, you know, this type of media. You could show this as a comprehensive learning tool. And I mean that you could from, you know, whether it was a sensitivity training to sex ed classes to, you know, just your mom or whoever. This did a really good job of being informative and educational without being preachy and overwhelming. It was awesome.
I thought this one did exactly what it set out to do, at least as I saw it, which is giving us a good idea of the different cross-sections of sexuality that are out in the world today, and giving us a good, again, cross-section of the different walks of life, because really it's something that's universal to humanity, and they did a great job of showing us that.
At the end of the day, I thought this was real. It was real because we were getting the opinions and thoughts from people who've experienced LGBT plus life in one way or another. However, there was something more heartfelt and real about the anecdotes and insights that they shared. I appreciated especially one line that was captured very well. They sell the brand of LGBT. Just knowing that people don't always fit into the box, it was a really great sort of non-stereotypical documentary about LGBT plus people. Well done.
And it was interesting to hear the various perspectives. One thing I really liked about the way it was shot is that when they started getting really personal or saying difficult things, the camera actually didn't show their face at all. So I think it was interesting that their face was either obscured or cut off, kind of maybe representative of how their experiences made them feel.
I thought that the way that they edited this film together was so interesting. And there were just shots where like they're having all of these different interviews and they're having like some different effects being overlaid and being done off the interviews, which I thought kept it really interesting because it is just somebody sitting in a room talking about like their own lives and how they interact with the world and how the world interacts with them. And there were just like certain moments where like the filmmaker would like zoom in on their hands, and I thought that that was so interesting because you could tell like that some people were still struggling, and they were talking about it too, which was what I liked the most. Obviously, is like you could match their body language to what they were saying, that you know some people were still struggling with how society was like responding to them, and some people were like clenching their fists, and they were like so firm and set, like this is like how I like, this is who I am, I'm not gonna lie about it, I'm not gonna try and cover it up or try and, you know, be anything else but me. But like I thought that that was such an interesting choice, the way that they chose to intercut like all of the different like artwork and the different types of painting, which I was really like, that was super intriguing to me, and focusing on the hands and the way that they intercut it with different effects really kept me interested the entire time. It kept me like actively engaged, and because of that, like I really connected with the film.
I really liked the use of paint in the foreground and the background. Made it very dimensional. This short is very different strokes for different folks. Every person has their own colorful point of view, just like life, and it's almost like for a moment they're their own type of community there.
Well, the art that was layered over top of the film was mesmerizing. Sometimes it was a little overwhelming, but just in general, the different arts plus these stories were just made for a really beautiful film.
Very artistic, especially with the painting and everything about that. And very powerful message. Very powerful message. Because each time when somebody's talking like this, I'm pretty sure one of the audience inspired to feel more belong. Because he thinks it's not just me. There are other people like me out there too. And they're bold enough to talk about it.
I thought this was a video that basically every parent should watch, because even if your kids aren't in the LGBTQ community, you know, parents can sometimes teach their kids wrong behaviors in dealing with people of other backgrounds, especially in LGBTQ instances. I think that most straight people don't understand the diversity within the community. And so I think this video could break it down for them very simply. And, you know, if I were the filmmaker, I would try to market this film to schools. I think this could be something that would really be well received in many schools, to work with, let's say, like the PTA or some other parent groups where you could show this and kind of get the point across. So I thought this was really well done.